Let's get this started. Webinar will begin soon. Come on. Working its way through the system. Maybe. There it goes. Okay. So call the May meeting for the Conservation Commission to order. And we'll start off with roll call. Michelle, would you?
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
Ann Schmidt, member.
You're done, chair.
Kristen Bastante, member.
Tom Olson, member. Dave Prescott, staff.
Good. Well, we do not have to do minutes of meetings because we did not get them. We will do those in June. Public communications. We had, I guess we got the Dickerson correspondence, which was in the attachment.
Yep.
I suspect we're gonna get a lot more and we thought we're over time, got a lot already. And I don't think there's, it's already in the record, so I won't comment on it. Is there anyone else from the public wishes to speak? Oh, boy, she's gonna come up. Oh, you're gonna stand
Want the
up.
microphone?
I just turned that one on, so if you can take the microphone.
You could sit down and.
Yeah, you can sit down and
Put a
use them.
chair
Take the
Yeah,
mic
if you
with
want.
you.
Either
yeah,
way.
stick with it.
I'll bring the chair up.
Too many confusing
We're
options.
trying to set the table, one or the other.
So is it working?
It is, it should be, yep. It was working.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Conservation Commission. I'm afraid I'm going to read my statement because if I don't, I'll forget something. We would Groton Conservation and my name is Elizabeth Raisbeck. I live at 81 Main Street, Groton. And I'm here representing Groton Conservation Advocates, of which I am co-chair. We would like to take this opportunity to share some ideas and recommendations concerning the plan of conservation and development, which, as you know, must be finalized in 2026. We are aware the Conservation Commission has only an advisory role in shaping the new POCD. This is primarily a staff-driven document. However, you are the voice for conservation in Groton, and as a highly respected body in this town, it's very important that you weigh in strongly for the conservation side of the POCD. What you say or don't say is likely to have a major impact on Groton over the next 10 years. On April 24th, I attended a meeting where Horsley Witten consultants presented their public outreach results regarding Groton's future to the Planning and Zoning Commission. A good hour or so was spent on the views of 231 citizens who responded to the town's questionnaire or came to the public meeting last fall. If you haven't watched that meeting on the 24th, I commend it to you. The entire meeting was devoted to the development side of the POCD. There was practically no discussion of the conservation side, realizing, of course, it was before the plan. So, except to mention there would be something on the facilities. I would like to share with you some of the issues GCA plans to present to the planning staff, which has the lead on the POCD and the Planning and Zoning Commission. We hope the commission will consider, this commission will consider incorporating these ideas into your own recommendations on the POCD. Most important is a strong plan to address climate change in Groton. But first, the town should incorporate the most recent hazard and climate projections from federal and state authorities, such as NOAA, FEMA, the EPA, and our state department while you work on the POCD. It should also draw on the incredible research of the Yukon Climate Program. Second, and some of these are already underway, the POCD should include a plan for climate resilience that strongly incorporates non-structural solutions. This should include rewriting our zoning code to prevent development in the 500-year floodplain and include larger setbacks for streams and other water bodies. It should include evaluating and adjusting zoning regulations to minimize likely damage to due to increased rainfall, storm damage, and rising coastal waters. The plan should focus on non-structural solutions as much as possible, which are usually cheaper. We now have climate impact studies on both sides of the Mystic River. Over the next 10 years, we should have action items on building resilience there that are achieved in collaboration by both towns. Third, the town should invest strongly in helping citizens weatherize, insulate, switch to heat pumps, and add solar panels to their homes. This will bring major long-term savings as well as address climate change. Fourth, the town needs to invest in increasing the number of electric charging stations. Fifth, land protection. The town should give priority to acquiring and protecting land that would be helpful in reducing the damage from storms, increased runoff, and rising waters in both creeks and coastal areas. A plan of acquisition should begin immediately. While Groton's population has been stable for a decade or more, this could all change over the next 10 years. With a strong focus on adding housing and electric boats added employees, the town could see a significant uptick. Thus, planning now for land protection is very important. We would suggest that a strong focus on getting specific net increase in trees over the 10 years would be a great goal. Parks and Rec has recently completed a study of street and nature park trees. The recommendation should be implemented speedily, and we should look at the health of our larger park woodlands where the tree health is ecologically critical. We would hope the Conservation Commission would strongly recommend the town to add protected open space, especially in the northwest corner, which has the least amount of publicly accessible open space, especially the Gumshoe area. Sixth, I guess this is invasives. We strongly recommend the goal of eradicating invasives in all of the parks, focusing first on the ecologically important parks. Groton has added significant acreage to its protected open space in the last 10 years, but it is not protecting that land from one of its worst enemies, alien invasives. Open space needs management or it deteriorates, and the values we spend millions of dollars on protecting can be lost. This is an important commitment to keep. And finally, we suggest that Groton commit to keeping its existing farmland in open space and focus on promoting development in already developed areas. Thank you for considering these suggestions. And I have a copy for each of you.
Oh, that was my first question. We give a copy to Dave.
I already have one. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I got one already up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have any questions? Oh.
Now, normally, I mean, we do have a section in the agenda to discuss the GLCB. Normally, we don't respond immediately to the input, but having said that,
I've been in school.
I would say I did see the April session. And that my conclusion was, what happened to conservation?
Okay, yeah, and as we kind of talked about the last time too, is like the purpose of that was just the community input, and that was the input that we got. It did not, we weren't talking about any different topics. It was just the feedback that the consultant got back from the community, and that's it.
So let's defer the rest of the discussion to that. You'll get part of the agenda, but we do want to talk about that.
Yep.
And the items, under that aspect. There, I see Chris Kuhn is out there.
Yep.
you have anything you want to say, raise your hand, or otherwise we will continue. Okay. Next item is report of chair. So I participated in the walkthrough on the Wolfbrook property that was on the 11th. Because we have a little education from the forester that the town had hired. I did do a follow-up with Dave Aldrich, and I also talked to him at the Earth Day, which I attended, so I guess that's two. And he acknowledges he still owes me the 2024 actual waste cost, so I'm still waiting for that.
Sorry, the what?
The waste cost.
Waste cost.
Waste cost. I did have a discussion with a Casey Adams, who is doing a startup waste collection business. I think I steered him to both Dave Aldrich and Dave to the town staff.
Yeah, no, I've been in contact with
Okay.
Casey. Yep.
Interesting, he's, I guess, a recent college graduate who owns a landscaping company, but is starting up a curbside collection for organic waste. So I told him that we do not advocate for a particular commercial enterprise, but we support the organic waste, and it is one of our priorities for our POCD input in for 2026 version. And I do know I talked to Dave Aldrich, and he did contact him, and so we'll see what happens. So I guess the interesting thing is there's at least multiple ventures going on, and there are more people interested, which is a good thing. I did review the April P and Z Zoom meeting. Talk more about that later. And did finally resolve what's going on with IT.
No, he did good.
Yep, so it turns out that there was an incorrect entry of my email address in the system, and it went.
He got rejected.
But yes, so it's now been fixed. It's all been updated. I did check it today, and it's all been updated. So all the latest on the stewardship plans, et cetera, is there. And I primed the pump for the next round. I said there's another round coming for the College folks. So hopefully that'll go smoother than some of the other things we did. And I gotta do it. Oops, I did miss the Groton 2035 meeting on Thursday.
No, we had you signed up too.
I
We were
know,
looking
I
like,
signed up, and I can only say I had a senior moment. And I, like you, I got there and I went, oh, damn, there was a meeting and I missed it. After I encouraged everyone on the panel, or the commission, to go. So I apologize for that.
We were all there except
And I will try and do better. There was a variety of communications from the Mystic River Alliance programs. And I do their invites to their sessions and meetings. I just send those out, and I think one of which you volunteered to. I'm trying to remember who volunteered.
I
That was
volunteered.
you volunteered, because I'm out of town, so I thank you for that. They're very active. So I would say between them and GCA, they're probably the two most active, at least like from my observations that I see. So, okay, that is my input, and now I know there's a bunch of stuff from Tom.
Yeah, I got a quite the list
You
here.
got a plethora,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll start just going down the list here. First off, I don't know if everyone's received it, but the NER is soliciting, there's a survey out as far as on what training and educational things that they could be better providing. There's a survey I can provide the list. Did you get that, Dave?
I probably did at some point. Yep.
Okay. So
But yeah,
I
if you
don't know.
if you want to report it,
I will re-forward that, but they're taking inputs from anybody in the area. But I did fill it out as in my hat, wearing this hat here, okay? I attended the Arbor Day, acknowledgement, which was, for the town here, last month. It's already in the presentation here. I was the only member there, but, but we were, co-sponsoring, and we were recognized there, for the part of the tree, planting. It's very well done, celebration. And then I also at that, they had the recommendations for the tree app. You can go online and get all the information. It's all been automated now. So that was passing that along, information's there. A couple of things on the PA 490 world. This is as a result of attending the open house this past week. There's two areas that I focused in on. One was, as you mentioned, is the conservation issues, but also with the PA 490. Based on the listing of what we saw that's included in again in the package here for the 490 folks that are landholders in regard to getting their information. We did on page, what is it? 36 here, list of those for the open space full inventory people. One of the things that, as a result of doing that work, I came up with the idea and kind of bounced it around with some of the folks at the open house in regard to an initiative. How would we implement an initiative to have PA 490 lands that are been in the program greater than 10 years to be automatically screened to be rezoned to GC? From the aspect saying that during the first 10 years, if you sell your land, there's a penalty you pay. But after the 10-year window is up, you're getting a tax break to maintain your land. But if it's in maintain that land, why isn't it put in? Why do we make it harder for you to sell it by rezoning it? And so I think that's one of the things that we should be pushing through with the recommendations. Now, when I broached that at to a number of the folks there, they said, well, you're going to go online and after once we get the virtual meeting open house available up there should be a comment section for it. Well, there's no comment section online. All there is to take the survey again, which I've already done. There's no place to input those details. They said they wanted me to expand on it other than what I could put on a 2x2 sticky. Okay. And there's no place to do that. So I kind of need that to happen.
There wasn't the last question. There wasn't there a question there that allows you to add any comments there? Like at the very
No,
end?
there's not. There's a thing, everything's tied to these different, it's what each of the stations.
There was supposed to be something at the end.
And there
I'll
was
look
not.
at it.
That's
Okay,
what I'm
I'll
telling
check,
you.
I'll check.
Okay,
It's
that's what
fine.
I'm saying. I did it this morning and made sure I checked this and
What's the GC stand for again?
that's
the
the
General
G, there's two Gs, which is for open space
Mhm,
preservation. There's conservation and recreation.
So it's GC.
GCA and GR.
Okay.
And that's all, that was all made, those decisions as far as basically a lot of the park areas like Sutton Park is GR, whereas you go to like some of the GOSIS things are GC.
Maybe a new one called GF, Groton Farming or something.
Well, yeah,
Conservation Farm.
I don't think,
Whatever.
I'm just saying it needs to be put into some type of
Mhm.
green, whatever.
Mhm.
That's all. But I wanted to expand on, I'm giving you this long story to the bottom line is that I needed to be able to
A
expand this.
mechanism to input.
Yeah, into inputs in the process here. So that's all that. The next thing is I had a meeting with a professor at Three Rivers who's on the Conservation Commission for Salem, Connecticut. And we had a long discussion in regard to should conservation commissions be recommending town ordinances for prohibitions to pesticides and non-organic fertilizers? Ooh, yeah. Okay, we've done it for plastics.
Did it for
Why aren't we expanding in these other
Poisons.
hazardous things that are
Yep.
going into the water? at local level here. So that I had that meeting with the Salem folks. The doctor.
Are you saying they have such an ordinance?
They do not, but they're considering it now that
Okay.
in our discussions, okay? She's a professor of environmental science at Three Rivers and has got a PhD in environment, in that type of stuff from UConn.
Can I poke in here just, on the
Well,
topic
I'm
of
just pointing that
pesticides?
out. I'm just
Okay.
telling you what I've been
No,
doing
should I
over
wait?
this past
What's the
month.
protocol? Wait,
But don't please.
okay.
The next item, I attended multiple meetings of the Thames River Basin Partnership. I've made inputs into how that they've restructured their plan now that ECCD is now no longer the lead organization. It's now being taken up to the mantle of it is by the Last Green Valley organization.
Okay.
So they've got a new management plan here, if you want to take a look at it, but they've now determined that they want to have 2 levels of membership, because it used to be just a single level, okay? And so now they're looking at what they call a convener and a member. A convener would be somebody that's responsible for organizing events and that type of stuff. And maintenance of the plan and everything, and members would just be contributors to those efforts. So I see us in a role of members, okay, that they can provide inputs and stuff. But I haven't volunteered to take on anything to become a convener, just to let you know. More to follow. This is the final version there. It's out for the final chop right now, as far as what's going to come out. So at that point, I'm just letting you guys know that, because we have supported these efforts in the past, even though we have such a small portion of town property that touches the Thames River. Okay. The next one is the NER is hosting a My Coast app workshop on June 25th that I've signed up for. What this is an app that's very well used in Massachusetts and Rhode Island and I think New Jersey to reporting as far as flood conditions and that type of stuff and coastal changes. And so I know Megan is working to get this implemented in.
She and I are working on it.
Yeah, through the Southwest Connecticut or Southeastern Connecticut area, at least throughout the NER and hopefully statewide in the long term. But that workshop is on the 25th. You can sign up online through the NER website. I attended the Groton City and Town Pedestrian Summit as a rep for the Conservation Commission. Also double hatting it with the trails, the Complete Streets Committee hat that I wear. I was kind of double duty there, but Tabitha from Parks and Rec was also there for the town and supporting the efforts. A lot of things being done on the Children First Groton stuff as far as trying to get kids outside and supporting those type of efforts. Then I also I was asked to participate in with the City of Groton Stormwater Special Committee. Okay. This is being run by Sierra Patrick. She was tasked by the mayor to get a group of knowledgeable people that deal with stormwater runoff within the city. And so because of my work with ECCD through BACWAC and MS4 stuff for the Joel property and all that type of stuff, they asked me to serve on this. So it's going to be a couple. I think it's supposed to be wrapped up within 1 year. So it's a short-term thing, and there's only like 3 or 4 meetings over the course of the whole year that I'm going to be involved in.
So are they doing that in coordination with the town or?
No, this is focused. This is one of the initiatives that under their POCD action items, because the city has their own POCD, they have an action item for improving stormwater conditions and all this type of stuff. They have a lot of issues, particularly in the outside of Electric Boat. Okay, that they're trying to fix that whole Five Corners area because there is so much pavement for parking there is what there's a problem they have. So they're kind of looking for help. I'm more of a support engineer, outside opinion type of guy for them. So,
Hmm.
okay, just to let you know what other things I'm doing representing the commission here. I attended the BACWAC, two things with BACWAC. There was a meeting in April, and then we had the cleanup I hosted on the 11th of April. So they've updated their agenda for the next year and 18 months. So it'll go through, and so I participated in that meeting in addition to the normal, BACWAC stuff. So they're updating pretty much it's not going to change all that much because we had a major overhaul 18 months ago, and those actions items are still continuing. We really focused in on how to get more water quality measurements of Baker Cove and everything. So that's really where most of the action is right now. So, and we did have a meeting with and discussions in regard to how successful was the cleanup as part of this, and also is it worth, are we doing the right things and focusing in on the right things on cleanups? Because and taking a look at this, so that's one of the action items is going to go make an assessment and see what are there better things that we should be focusing in on in the future. Okay. Attended the open house, and as I mentioned, there's ways to get the comments in there. I attended physically the planning and zoning meeting on the POCD, but they weren't taking comments. But I did, rather than watch it, I lived it. And then on this past Wednesday, I attended the COP Family Park Overseers meeting. As every 6 months. I was an invited guest to present the stewardship plan that we approved at last month's meeting. They were very complimentary of it. They thought it was done by a contractor. So but I said, it only took me an hour and a half, to knock it out. But they didn't know what to do with it because
I was gonna ask you.
yeah. So what they did is they tabled it because they felt the excuse was that the last page with the MS4 checkoff list was too micro print for them to read.
God.
Okay, that was the reason. So so Mark Berry took the action to talk to Michelle in Public Works here. She's already taken, that action's already been completed on Friday. They have one that they can blow up, expand, and all that type of stuff. So, but they won't look at it for 6 months and stuff. And really, but they gave Tabitha, or they gave Mark Berry was there representing Parks and Rec. He's an ex officio. He's not direct staff to them, but he does a lot of their work for them. But he explained how Tabitha is working with it, and that that as far as it's a guidance document, they don't know really whether they need to approve it or not, as far as that's within their purview if the staff is operating to it. And that's this is kind of a weird area that they got to do a little bit of research as far as what their role is as the oversight board. Do they approve things, or they've never had this question asked of them? Okay, because they don't have separate, right? Because they follow.
We approved it.
I said, we gave you the thing just as we would do for any other parcel in the town. So if you want to do additional approvals, fine. If you just want to they didn't even know if they had to vote on it or not. That's kind of the, so I'll let them figure it out. If they say they won't need me back. So, which is good news. I'll let them do whatever they want with it. Okay. And I think that wraps up all my items that I've done in the last month.
And in your spare time?
Oh, my spare time, I've been working Tri-Town Trail.
Okay.
Built a new bridge on Saturday.
Oh, all right, that's nice bridges, by the way.
This is identical now. It's 48 feet long now. So
Okay. Oh,
Tough act to follow, Tom. I've been away, so I have not done much. I have two anecdotal comments. One is like what I saw from what was coming out of the Earth Day projects was great. And the feedback I heard was a really great event. And also just just an interesting point, it is now illegal in France for homeowners to use any kind of pesticides or herbicides at all.
Mhm.
The only people that can do them there are professionals. Because it's really the homeowners that misuse and really, really pollute, like the professionals seem to.
you mean over fertilizer, over.
Anything.
Trees or anything.
No wasp spray, no like herbicide, no nothing, but just, I guess they're digging it out with their hands, but that just
Wow.
shows you in a country that really takes things seriously and moves forward that,
That's
maybe
the whole country?
the country, yeah.
Wow. That's
If you're a
pretty
professional in
impressive.
agriculture, you can, apply, but
Right.
you can't just walk down to, their equivalent of Home Depot and buy a jar of stuff and spread it.
Wow.
So
That's
something.
really
That's
impressive.
impressive, right? Yeah. That's all.
all?
Mhm.
All right. I've been tracking a few bills in the legislature. So HB 5004, state legislature, that is the big omnibus climate bill. It has now passed the House, and it is at least on the calendar for the Senate. We'll see if it actually gets called this year. I'm also tracking SB 9, which is a climate resilience bill. It would do some of the things that Liz, you mentioned with rezoning and that kind of thing. SB 4, which has some energy related, clean energy in it. And then HB 6229, which is Andre Baumgartner's bill on plastics. I've heard that that's stuck in appropriations.
Stuck in
So
appropriations.
yeah,
Last thing I
okay.
did.
So I'll be following all of those and give you an update. It's basically crunch time now. The end of the session, I think, is early June. So we'll see what happens. I attended Earth Day Expo. We had our own table and then also part of the organizing committee and the College project. Groton 2035, I did attend. I went around to each of the stations and put in comments. Those again are public comments, not from our commission. So I think it'll be important to actually get commission reports in. I understand a baseline report. I believe
They're
that-
coming soon. Yep. They're being finalized right now, and those will go up on the Greater Groton site
site, but that's
very soon.
baseline. So nothing.
Those are the baseline. Yep. Because you
Okay.
have to start somewhere. Yep.
So I look forward to our discussion and in their agenda on that. College students, we just had a final touch base via email on their projects and they all shared their final reports. That was very nice. And I'm really excited that the Expo folks are looking ahead to next year already and basically a lessons learned kind of document to the next group on things that they felt for themselves they could have done a little bit better. And one is getting involved earlier with the social media. We tried very, very hard and that just didn't work. Let's see. I watched the April 24 PNC meeting. I will be at the Mystic River Alliance meeting on the 28th. And I can't remember if I gave an update from on David Aldrich and the commercial composting. Did I already do that?
No.
No.
You can.
Well, this was in March, I think.
I recall something. like that,
April.
yeah.
Well,
April, sorry.
That was after that last session. But he's progressed a bit.
Okay.
I talked to him Earth Day. and looked into it.
I didn't talk to him because I had just heard, but basically the commercial site is, they're waiting for the
But they're
permit.
very close.
Very, very close. They've
close.
identified an operator.
So
Okay.
I congratulate him. It's been a long time coming, but we're
Yeah.
finally going. to-
I know, it
he's
sounds like
very,
it's-
Very positive that it will get closed very shortly.
Yeah, so still waiting for the
Yeah.
permit from DEEP.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything we can do. My understanding is no,
Things, no, yeah.
Okay.
Things are progressing. Yeah.
and that's it.
Okay, I also attended the Earth Day Fair, at least briefly, to check in on the students, and we'll talk about that under student projects more. And then I also attended the Groton 2035, and I do have a comment, but again, that's on the list, so I'll give my comment for discussion until we get to that topic on the agenda. And that's it.
All right. So agenda item. Old business, open space inventory. So you talked about the 490 review.
Right.
Noah was updating to get the SCOG and us aligned. Is that?
And SCOG hasn't agreed to all the stuff yet, so they did get back to me after 2 months of no contact. They did get back to me about 2 weeks ago. And so they're still in review in regard to how, what I had told them, what this is how it's all on our inventory. And it gets down to a lot of it is the uses of some of these, whether it's conservation or recreation on some of the parcels and
Yep.
stuff.
Debate.
Because they have those 6 different categories and stuff, and how we look at something and how they're looking at something. So they're still reviewing it. Will get back to me.
Okay, but from our inventory list,
Noah has updated the inventory, the CCOG current listing is there. What I'm trying to do is get them to get them more in sync with each other.
I
Because
apologize, I didn't check it. Is it in the published viewer?
let me see if
That
it
was-
comes up.
I should have looked myself.
Yeah. Wait, I gotta go for it the other way. Inventory. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yes. Don't
So
worry.
the point is the data's there, we just, I guess the waiting.
I know that
See
when
if
I
it's
when I
come up
pull
with
it, when I
what we-
pull the listing, the Excel spreadsheet down, it's there. It's just I don't know if that shows up on the display.
Okay. Thank you. Next one, open space planning. I didn't have anything per se for that. Everybody else did versus things following. Now we get to the Groton 2035. So we have our 6 priorities. We talked a little bit about them. I would say, well, today Ray was gonna provide his update on his priority, but
Cog is updated on here.
oh, it is.
It's live.
Okay. Check that. And so we'll move that to June. And let's put it on the agenda, so now make sure he doesn't forget that. We were asked to, I guess, receive First Witten on our June meeting
Mhm.
for a half hour, you asked?
Half an hour in the beginning. So Horsey Witten has also been working with us on community engagement. So they are asking the 3 commissions, so planning and zoning, conservation, and EDC, to sit down to have a discussion about community engagement and how to get more people involved in the process and whatnot. So it'll just be a half an hour max. We'll cut them off at 5:30, and they know that, so it's not going to take into too much. It'd be like we have a normal presenter or something like that. So but they asked to come to the June meeting.
All right, I guess my view on that is, my observations about 50% of the attendees on these other sessions tend to be the same folks. Might be Liz, but for us, 50% are kind of community folks.
Yep.
So, what I would ask is, knowing that we're gonna discuss that, is think over the next month about suggestions you may have. One of my thoughts was, rather than trying to create this new meeting, is go to a GCA meeting, go to a GOSA meeting, where the people are there already. And then like they're coming here, because you're not getting, it's awfully tough to get new people when they live in their lives, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's part of the
That's why
the
they're asking.
discussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there'll be probing questions for you all to kind of think about and ponder. And so the thought is, at least at this point, is a two-part series. So one is to meet with each commission separately, and then to have, one of the things that came up, and I think we've talked about this a couple of times about, is there opportunities to do more joint meetings and whatnot. So the thought is sometime in August, I think late August, we're going to try to do another joint meeting that's going to talk all about community engagement for the different commissions, and basically take everything that was discussed at each one of those individual meetings and bring it back to the group about sharing ideas and whatnot about how to get more involvement.
All right,
Is there an opportunity then for when would the commission have opportunity to give feedback on,
For what?
or input
On this?
on
On specifically on community engagement?
No,
No,
not on
not-
community.
No,
engagement.
this is,
No,
on-
I understand that.
wait, on what? Say again?
So what's the appropriate time for the commission, as a commission, to give input to the consultants on the conservation plan, on the POCD?
That's separate. This is a totally
No,
separate
I
project. We're not
understand.
trying to,
asking when.
yeah, there'll be plenty of time for that. There's,
You know,
that-
that's
so
It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it,
No,
because it's supposed to be done next year, right?
they're still on target right now. So that's what
Okay.
we've been told. They're still on target.
And it's when, and the target date for,
Is sometime, I think it's June of 2026.
Yeah, I think it's June of 26, so it's like 12 months.
But that includes all town council approvals.
Oh, right.
Right.
So we need like a few-
So, from what I understand, we're supposed to have a draft by the end of the year of the plan itself.
Well, since we had the discussion before, we're gonna comment on the draft whether they ask us or not.
No, but it's open for everyone. Everyone can
I
comment.
understand
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
So
no, I-
Yeah.
From a formal
Oh, yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
And then we will.
but that's
go to
by the end
before
of the
town
year.
Council when they do their review.
Yep.
Additional.
Would
Absolutely.
rather have input before the draft rather
I-
than commenting after the fact.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I understand that, and.
Just reiterate.
We have.
And they
gotten
have all 6 of your priority stuff. That stuff has all been sent to them. All the documentation you've asked for, that's all been sent to them. So literally the consultant's working on this right now.
some- We'll see if you
Yeah.
listened.
I,
We're confusing
I-
a couple things right now. So I just want to, so we're set. No, we're set. I'm just making sure we're set on June 2nd. Everyone's good. That's just about community engagement to start with. That there's
Yep.
2 separate projects.
Right.
This one's separate. Now go ahead.
I want to give a little bit of a pushback on what you said. And I 100% agree with what Liz said and what Larry brought up, that yes, they were responding, this was planning zoning and what people said, but the people's input is somewhat guided by how the consultants present information to them. For instance, at the 2035 thing we went to on Thursday, the one section was historical, cultural, and natural resources.
Mhm.
That was the open space issue was lumped in with cultural and historic. Yes, there was climate. Yes, there was sustainable, but
And that's how
open
they said
space did not have its, so people, and they're talking about, oh, the cultural stuff and how important it is or whatever, got totally, it was like we were kind of an afterthought that wasn't even part of the discussion.
It was not an afterthought. That was how they decided to do it. And truthfully, if you have comments to that, send them to me and I'll send them to the consultant. Like, I don't want to think that your comments are not being heard. Write a letter and send them to me and I'll send them to the consultant in terms of feedback. It's not that they're not listening to them at all. Like,
Well-
I get that feedback. And that was why I was divided up into those 3 sections: of climate, parks and rec, and then the other stuff, the natural resources part.
And yeah, but natural resources was part of cultural and historical.
Yep.
Natural resources was not something that people had paid attention to on its own. It was subsumed by cultural and historic.
I think I was at that station and the majority of the comments that I got were all about natural resources and open space. There was very, very little. I think I talked to one gentleman about cultural and historic, but it was all about natural resources. And I was there the whole time, so.
People self-selected.
Well, I mean, that's fine, like, yep. Well, and that was part, that was also part of the challenge too, is that, this is to get feedback on the entire plan. I understand you have a focus on that, but also the part of it is, as residents, we need input on everything. And you have your background for the conservation, and that's fine. And like I said, that stuff has been passed on to them. How it gets incorporated into the plan, you all have to decide if it's enough. But it's also, part of this is based upon the feedback from the community.
Right, and that's the problem, is my point, Dave, is that it's a vicious cycle. They present to the community what they hear back, and if the conservation stuff is in the back thing, that it doesn't get part of what's present to the community, is a feedback loop, and we get out of the feedback.
And like I said, what they presented was everything that came out of it. And right now there was a huge push toward, like, so part of this POCD as opposed to other ones is that we have not, as a community, done a good job reaching out to the community. It's been very, very selected in terms of who is heard from. And that is how like the past POCDs have been. So there has been a very conscious effort to make sure that we are reaching out, not just to homeowners, but to renters and those that are looking for homes and those that are working at nighttime and doing these meetings at night and trying to be as open as possible. And that is the feedback. So the consultant, even before they said to us, they said, this is what we're hearing. So yes, there were some conservation pieces, but it was not right now it was more economy, housing. I can't afford to where I live right now. It was not about as heavily about conservation. It's not that it wasn't there, because they would present that piece of it, but what they were hearing from the community was very heavily handed from some of the other stuff. So all that was, so don't take that as that, just because that's what we heard, that's what it is. That was the response back from the community in terms of that. And that's not just from the survey itself, but also from the focus groups as well. So I hear you loud and clear. And like I said, you're like, if you have issues with any of these processes, I suggest you send something back, and I'm happy to present it to the consultant. I really am, So.
That was my comment. No. Because it's the same things. I mean, we gave them tons of information.
Right, and that's
At the
part,
meeting with them.
but that's part of the plan. So
That
up
is.
at this point, the plan is not here yet. They're bringing all the stuff together for it. So if you remember the POC, the appendices is all the baseline reports that are, history of the town and everything else that goes to it. That takes a lot of information. So that is what they were working on before. And at that point, they were working on the baseline reports, and they were working on basically surveying as many people as we could. And we had a decent amount, but 230 or so, 240 or whatever, is still a very small portion of the community, and there's a lot of challenges going on that are not first and foremost to most people. Like we had some of the discussions about homelessness, are much worse than they ever have been, talking to several groups and stuff. So those are some of the priorities that are starting to come forward that were never addressed in past POCDs. So really this is supposed to be about the entire community and trying to get as much out of that as possible. So I'd say like, just keep following this stuff. And, I understand you guys have your priorities and stuff. Like climate is a huge, huge part of this. So also the climate action plans happening at the same time. So like climate is going to be all over this. Climate was not in the last one, and everyone knows that.
Right.
Climate is, climate's not a separate thing. It's not just like, okay, it's going to be a category. Climate encompasses everything, and it should be seen holistically, not just like climate is this topic here. You know what I mean? No, it's going to encapsulate everything that happens within the community.
So just to be clear,
Sure.
so they have everything that we already sent in.
Mhm.
So it's in addition, what we haven't done in the past as a town for the POCD is have public input
Yes.
and having more community input on that.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
have what we did. But
Right, no, I get
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
and it's not,
Well,
I'm not
we'll have to
disagreeing with
see.
any of this. What I'm saying is that what feedback they get from the community is partly guided by what they ask the community.
Exactly.
I
So,
get it.
so it's not like, oh, well, this is what the community says. Well, the community says stuff because that's what you're asking about. And it's how you ask it and you're gonna get answered. This is basic,
Basic
basic survey.
I agree.
Yeah.
And data studies, right?
Yes.
You basically get the answers you ask for.
I suggest you write a letter to, and send it to me, and I'll send it to Horsley Witten. I'm happy to do that. Like, I really am. But again, this is supposed to be a
Can
whole.
make a difference.
Well,
Right,
in
something
June,
make
they're
a
gonna be
difference.
here,
What?
right? In June, they'll be here.
And you-
Yeah, but that's not about the POCD. So
No.
yeah, it's not,
No,
it's about community engagement.
input,
Yep.
and if you have feedback.
This
for
is
them
part
on
of the
that
communication
section
process.
of
That's
it,
right. This is part. of
And
the
it's also a
communication
time
process.
for us to recommend additional groups of, or places or what, how they can get more
Reduce the
information.
size of the question.
Right.
Okay,
So I think that's.
If you ask the
fair.
question differently, you might get different answers.
Yeah, no, I get
Exactly.
that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have feedback, you like, you have every right to say something,
Mhm.
you know, and like you should, you know, like you absolutely should. Again, those are the big things that we're hearing. We're hearing some massive things about struggles. And,
yeah.
and the struggles are not real for everyone. And a lot of people are very much, you know, sheltered from that or not impacted by that. But a really huge chunk of this community are having really, really fair housing right now. You know, like there's some really big things that, again, were just never explored in the past. And they came out because we asked people, we
I'm
asked
not arguing any of
different
that,
people.
Dave. I'm not.
I know,
arguing
I get it.
any of
I'm
it.
just saying, like, I'm saying like, that's part of it.
Fair
That's
enough.
good.
Th-
Yep.
We got a question on survey bias, which we could address.
Right.
I think it's a reasonable thing to address because who you ask
And how you
and
ask
how
it.
you ask it
Hmm.
is a way of getting input. I mean, one of the articles in the day was, in the last 20 years, the cost of housing, it's gone up 62%.
60%
Something, and it's like, okay. That's,
housing.
It's significant.
That's
Yep.
It's
significant.
huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so, so it is, and I know we started with social justice and we were
Justice.
championing, and that is there, because that wasn't really in the last
Right,
POCD.
right.
So I guess I'm okay to some extent that that open space was in the last POCD, and we've made progress on it. But things like social justice, waste management, the sustainability. I mean, there's things that we picked as priorities because they weren't there at all.
Mhm.
Right? Now, the other thing is that what I don't like is conservation development.
I agree.
They're not separate,
Right.
right? I mean, almost every study I've seen says if you do it right, good conservation practices and implementation actually help economic development.
Mhm.
It's not something that, oh my, like, well, you're gonna lose tax base. It doesn't work that way.
No, and if you look at our regs, there are a lot of protective regs in there that allow for that. Like in the WRPD, you know, there are very strong regulations that are there to protect the resource. You know, like those aren't, you know, like there is a way, of course, there's a way for them to work. It's not one or the other. It's
Yeah,
meeting
definitely.
somewhere in the middle. Absolutely.
Okay, anyway, enough of that.
Yep.
We move
Good
on?
point, Michelle.
I'm done.
Okay. Budget support, I think that's chugging along.
Yeah, well, I've been monitoring that and everything went out of the town council with
Right.
as approved and Mark hasn't made his presentation. It hasn't come up for the RTM yet. That'll be, I think, this coming week. As far as his section of the RTM defending
So
it to their committee, to
I know the last RTM session, we went and took a position for the Conservation Commission.
well, because it had been cut by
They
the
had it cut, right,
by the
right.
town council. The town council.
I know it's not cut,
So-
but we want to make sure it doesn't get counted by the RTM.
And I haven't, let me pull up, I can pull up the
Is there any
RTMs.
sense that people are looking at?
I don't think that they're,
One-shot deal, wasn't it a special circumstance having to do with?
well, no,
Purchase
well, the
money.
question is whether there was an RTM meeting I think the first RTM meeting, I think it's already happened because they're already in the committee stuff. Are they taking comments public? Is there going to be a public input portion to
Right.
the full RTM before they vote on individual sections of it. And that's the real question. So I don't know, I'll have to take a look here. Yeah.
Should be.
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
happened or not. I missed that because I wasn't concerned about it because everything was. fully-
No, I agree
Yeah.
that this time, at least everything that we had
Yeah.
proposed is in there. But I don't want to assume that it's going to get by the RTM hurdle. That's all.
They can't really change it. They could just veto, right?
No, they
No,
can,
they
they
can
can,
amend
they
it.
can lower an individual department. They can lower it. Yeah, they just can't go above what was there, for a departmental thing.
All right. Let's see, vacant land review. My monthly question. Anything happening?
Did you reach out to John Burt? Nothing new. No, I don't have anything new. I don't.
No, I'm just. I think the fact that, I keep going on there trying to see the proposals and they're still not public.
For
For the one that is up for.
Pleasant Valley.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that's being worked on. I don't know where. I think it's, again, if you need someone to talk to about that, you need to talk to Corinne or John Reiner. And they'll tell you the latest update on that.
so I just wanted to say, could we take a view at the two proposals?
Isn't
That
isn't this
was-
process supposed to be more public?
It,
Completely open?
well, there's also, again, you really need to talk to John or Corinne because they're the ones that are dealing with that.
I will take that one to get with Reiner on the availability of the two proposals for Pleasant Valley. We got it. That's the first thing is let's see what the hell they're proposing before we can take a position on it. Okay.
Cycling back to your budget question, the opportunity for a public input was at the regular RTM meeting, which was was on the 7th.
So we
Missed it. Yes. Sorry.
Well,
I couldn't attend because it was at the same time I was doing the COP overseer board meeting.
not as important as prior years, but
Yeah, but that was the opportunity.
Yeah,
We would have been
okay.
on
So
this,
cross
they
that
had
out.
the,
okay.
The Happy Project.
The Happy Project.
So we had the presentations for the Connecticut College student projects on last Monday. They all had posters at the Earth Day Fair. There's room for improvement in that, and Giselle had some questions, some comments. So the reports are coming in. I don't think I have all of them yet, but I'm meeting with Jen on Wednesday to kind of debrief. And we have plans on the agenda for June's meeting to discuss path forward from the projects. I did mention it to Megan on Wednesday, but I have to send out the email to the people I worked with and you guys are gonna send it to your people to specifically invite them. I told Jen about that we're gonna do the feedback. She's gonna try to get on by Zoom on next month's meeting for discussion about path forward. And
The path forward is different than wrapping up this year's.
correct.
It's-
So, well, I guess
Else.
it's kind of both, really. Yeah, I mean, the wrap up, is, we'll have all the, I would kind of put it together. It's like, basically, we've completed this year's. And what does the town want to do with the results? Like, are there any things that the town actually wants to use the things for? Right? Do you anything that we want to do from,
Okay.
any recommendations to the town?
Right.
on-
So there's
on-
three things that come out of it that we've done, right? One is publicize and put in the
Right.
web pages, summary of what
Right.
the kids did. Second is to decide if we wanted to, I'm sorry, second was we selected portions of that. And we forwarded them to the specific departments.
Right.
That we thought would benefit.
Right.
The third thing was, we put together a presentation to the town council. That then goes through them and says, is there something that we think is actionable that we wanted to present from that work body to the town council?
Right.
So
So
I was gonna look at to
we're
get-
doing it a little bit
Okay.
differently. The idea is to actually invite the people from the town departments to the meeting to have them as part of the discussion of what to do with this stuff going forward. So to send them the link to the recording of last Monday's meeting and say, we're going to talk about this next month, you please, if you, we'd like for you to attend to have a discussion about how you would, want to implement this or what.
You're envisioning that for June?
Mhm.
Which means if we send it to departments, we need a teaser for each of the departments. To say, hey, look at that piece. I mean, what's in it for me from Public Works that we want to kind of, what's in it for me for? Parks and
I
Recs?
don't know that I have time to go through the video and tell them what time to start looking at for their
No, I
piece.
didn't say that level of detail.
We're gonna send them the video
Right,
and say, for the people that were physically involved with the project, so they know what's in it. I mean, they at this point should be thinking about, because they were involved in the discussion of
I
the
understand- I
project.
understand, right, you got Tabitha with Parks and Recs, you got.
Right, and
that-
Megan, yes,
But that's it from the staff point, correct?
for those three projects.
Right,
Did any staff work on the other three projects?
right, which I'm saying is that, are you envisioning inviting Public Works for any reason? Or the tree warden for any reason?
I don't intend to invite anybody that wasn't part of the project.
Ah, okay, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
This is specifically for the people
That were it.
that
Fine,
that
that I get.
interacted with the students. Because by definition, they gave the student, tried to guide the students to
Yep,
give them
yep,
something that they could
Please,
use.
Got that.
Okay,
So,
Could I
but what I'm saying is, one of the things we did was, we then looked at that.
we can talk about,
In-
we can talk
right.
about what we want to do with the rest of it.
Okay, all
next
right,
week,
fair
I
enough,
guess.
so only the first part is June,
Right,
and then that will
and
kick
then,
off.
we'll figure out, because I haven't even, I mean, I have to get the reports together, I have to get I have
Yeah,
to do that, so
okay,
I have to
okay.
do the other stuff, but I don't want to wait to call the three people in that were
We're
involved,
involved
because
with it.
it's on, like, it's here.
Okay,
And
so-
Chris,
Quick,
if you-
As
yes.
far as like, this is our third year now doing this, and do we have any kind of record? Has anything that these students have done actually been implemented? Like, they've come up with a lot of great projects and ideas. Has any of it actually come to fruition? I mean, obviously the Earth Day thing did, but
I
you
think
know,
the Earth Day is the only one that's been really anything done with it.
yeah, because they've had a lot of great ideas and
Right.
concepts and.
But we in the past, we haven't involved the staff like this. So that's
Mm.
one of the big improvements is where we basically designed the project specifically for something that somebody on the
That'll
staff,
add to the
Right,
staff.
right, as opposed to just what the students are interested in doing.
Increases the odds.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought if we had any kind of,
Yeah.
I
don't really
I
think we
can't
do,
think of
yeah.
We sent the
anything.
project to
Sure,
the city
Megan.
about the city trees.
Yeah.
Trees.
They got nothing back.
right, right.
Yep, anyway, so I think, and that's
Do all this great work, and it actually would be nice to see some of it actually.
right, which is why we're inviting the people involved to next.
Okay, so
meeting.
another item on the June agenda.
Yep.
So we got to come back and look at the June agenda,
Mhm.
make sure that we haven't overloaded it.
Mhm.
So at the end, maybe we'll
Come
just
back to it.
talk and talk
Yep.
about agenda.
But-
Okay.
And
So-
the other thing, and I know Giselle had, so this mostly for Ann, is to any lessons learned feedback for me to give back to Jen to keep track of for next year too. So
Sure.
we can
okay.
talk about that too.
So
Um,
are the reports going to be ready by June meeting?
I've seen reports.
Yes.
Done with
already.
school.
I have to.
I
Yeah,
would think-
school's out, they're
right.
done.
Yeah.
Yes,
Done.
we're getting them now. But we don't make the reports public.
No,
One pager, though, as well.
The one pager will be public and I should have that before the June meeting, yes.
okay, so I'll need that by May 28th, which is the Wednesday before
The one pagers to put in
the agenda
things. Okay,
packet.
so
If we want the
so-
commission to look at them, then we need them by
one
May 28th.
pager.
Now, we have
Package.
published the detailed report to individual staff, departments in the past. Not public.
we can forward the
You can
whole
forward
report,
it,
like,
yeah.
we'll do the whole stewardship report to Tabitha.
Right,
We'll do the two Go Groton,
right.
get out to Megan. And anybody else that, I don't, and I don't know. So the other thing is the community gardens one, Megan maybe is interested as well, because the idea was to put
Mm.
community gardens in the schools, right? So she may want that as well.
Well, or other
And other places, yeah. So that one, so even though she wasn't part of the discussion with those students, she'll probably want someone will want that. And that's the other, the feedback for next week, for next month is who else should be getting
That's
that
fine.
level of detail from the projects. Right? Assuming that there's that level of detail in the report that's, useful.
Mhm. Yep.
Just saying. So I don't want to say too much more because I haven't seen the reports yet, so.
Right.
Anyway,
We
but
understand. Right, yes, we're playing, we're playing with the dice.
right, the other though feedback for Tom, and maybe it's just as well that although I know you don't plan on going back to their thing, but maybe for Mark and Tabitha with the COP property, if they end up doing something with an app with them, they're gonna have to, want to talk to the COP property people about what to do with it or whatever. So, because that was the whole reason when their people do go out and do the survey, do their jobs, to how they get the information back to Mark and Tabitha. So I wouldn't consider that totally closed yet. Personally, but it's up to Mark and Tabitha.
Yeah, it's outside my
It's up
hand.
to them.
I'm not gonna add things at this point in the stewardship plan and stuff.
No,
No,
the
no,
way
no,
stewardship plan, it
okay,
would be,
okay.
but just, my point is that the COP property issue is
It-
not
it
totally
is a pi- it's
closed.
Supposed to be a pilot for Parks and Rec.
Exactly.
Right.
which
Exactly,
Then
yeah.
might impact or.
But anyway, but again, it'd be Tom, that's not your circus,
Right,
totally. I think you're on the outside of that circus, but
very far on the outside.
that's all I had about that. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Job well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there's room for improvement, but I think
But
we've
there's
been,
always room.
every year
Every
we've
year
been
it
improving a
gets
little bit,
better.
so, yeah.
Another update on the budget here. On the 14th, there's a regular RTM meeting prior to the budget, them going into a budget sessions. Because the budget session for the Parks and Rec is on the 15th. Okay, so in theory, you could slide in there under public comment, even though it wasn't the original hearing where they were expecting to take public comments on the overall budget. You could still come in on the 14th at 7 PM. 55, if you want to make a comment to support anything in the budget that hasn't
Which
been already
would be
voted out.
Any community group like GCA.
Whatever. So just letting you know, I looked at all the core details here. So that's the update.
Anybody interested in?
I'm already booked at that time.
You're in France.
No, someplace else.
I'm in New London, so Thames River Heritage Park.
Okay. Yeah. Think I'm not here. All right, let me look at that.
You can make a written comment and put it in
No,
by,
that's true, we could write
right,
that
and
down.
they'll gladly take those,
Okay, all right, that's a thought.
as long as you get in before 4 o'clock on that day.
On that day. Yeah. Okay, 6.7 open space stewardship. We talked somewhat about it, which is the COP property, the Sparkle Lake cleanup.
That was done as the Sparkle Lake cleanup. We did not clean Sparkle Lake during the cleanup. That was the kind of a sad part of it, is that with the, even though we had 30 people there and everything, the assignment of folks we had what Dave was there with us. We got we left the thing. We were supposed to clean up on the way over to Sparkle Lake and then do along Sparkle Lake and also the Ackley property north of that. All we got was to the entrance of Sparkle Lake. We got the entrance of Sparkle Lake cleaned up, but we didn't get any farther into
A
Sparkle
lot of
Lake.
cleanup.
There's that
Sure,
much
so it's
stuff.
There was a lot of stuff,
Significant stuff on that side.
more significant than what we had anticipated. Yeah, and compared to the prior year that we had done.
Brings
So-
up another whole topic about how to dissuade people from.
Well, and that's really what the ECCD folks said, because also at Branford Manor, they did not, there was still stuff left, visible stuff. We did get the stuff, the high priority stuff at Groton Estates taken care of, because we basically targeted in 3 areas, okay? The Thomas Road, which was what I led for the Conservation Commission, and we had the NERV folks and her volunteer list doing Brantford Manor, and then we had the Mystic Aquarium people doing the Groton Estates, because they had to go in the water. They brought the waders and all this other kind of stuff. And so they pulled all the stuff out of the water, the bicycles and skateboards and traffic cones and all this kind of stuff. So that portion was fairly well. They didn't get everything that was still in the along the edge as much as they could. They got as much as they could, but we spent, it was only 2 hours. Once that I did post that the Mystic Aquarium people are now already working with Michelle on potentially doing another cleanup in conjunction with the Save the Sound in I think the September-October timeframe. And so they're being looked at to re-vector their work, which has been, they pick different sites, whether it's Asker Point, Bluff Point, someplace like that. They can be re-vectored, that group, but it has to be by their sponsor. In this case, the sponsor is Secor Subaru. Okay, so they're working with them to because they get some sponsorship type of stuff, and also some of the volunteers through their network of because they're a community support network for that activity. So more to follow on it as far as the follow-up, and they're maybe looking at the Groton Estates area in particular, or finish up on Sparkle Lake, but they recognize that both of those sites are available for additional work.
Is there any thought of putting in, wildlife cameras for a high dumping area?
That's what I was.
Well, I wouldn't say this is high dumping. If you want high dumping, you go to the M lot, okay? The washer and dryer is still there because we can't pull it out. And there's now 4 recliners that are added, just literally up against the fence that's, where all the stuff comes in, all the snow and stuff is supposed, there's a big fencing area where it's supposed to, keep all the big stuff out. It stood its job, keeping 4 recliners that were, that were tossed off the lot onto the town property there. That's because the edge of the parking lot is the border with the town, and they just throw it onto the town property and right by the fence there and stuff. So.
In this town,
And I didn't have anybody actually go up there. We just didn't have time to go up to the M lot this year.
a lot of places I live, they have bulk pickup days. You just put junk on the curb and the.
We used to
town
have that in
picks it up.
Groton, at least
Yeah,
the
that,
city
they
did
don't have
anyway.
that here. That would help a lot of that. People just put it on the curb and they wouldn't have to throw it in the woods.
It's dependent on your fire district.
Mm,
Okay.
Yeah, no, that.
Yeah.
And I think, part of the issue where we were is that it wasn't huge stuff.
No,
Like,
it's
like Tom said, there's other places that, okay, a camera would do great there because we're talking massive stuff.
I mean, it's the towns at the M lot, there's already posted signs. There's 4 posted signs. There's do not dump, no dumping allowed already. We've already.
I mean, you gotta, the only way.
And the monitoring
you
would
tell
have to be
somebody
on.
Find somebody and then you publicize that you did that.
And it's much easier to find someone who's dropping off a recliner
Right.
or, so what we found was all smalls. So it was cans and Dunkin' Donuts stuff. So, but there was, there was like 5 or 6 of us. We could have used like 30 of us.
Yeah, dude,
Just
just
to
put
be
the
on-
whole crew on there.
There was, and that's, so
Yeah,
that-
there were 6 of us.
and and the cleanup was limited to 30 people, which is manageable. But in terms of how much had to get accomplished in those 2 hours, it wasn't enough volunteers. It's almost like, you were captain in one,
Yeah.
it was like basically 3 captains
Yeah.
and each group could have had 20 people. And I think we would have gotten a lot more accomplished if we did that. It's harder to organize and manage, but you really need big numbers to kind of hit the kind of stuff that we had,
And that's why we're going back and taking a look. Is what
Right.
we're picking up really a problem relative to the water quality of BB Cove at this point? Okay, we agree that from a plastics perspective, it's potential stuff that could get in there. We won't argue that in the least. But a lot of that stuff is is pretty solid. It's just not moving.
It's not
Okay.
going off of
Right, and so that's
chemicals
kind of,
or
we're trying to
oils.
focus on stuff, like, Dave and I, we went, I had my muck boots on, we're in the water, along Thomas Road there and that type of stuff. Picking stuff out of the water line, that's where we focused our efforts, but there is still a lot of other trash there that could be picked up, and we won't argue that, but we've started the water line working in as best we can. And if it got too engrossed in invasives and stuff, because it's not moving, we didn't really worry about it to divide our time with. That's what I have an action item as part of the ECCD action plan to go reevaluate what we're really doing here. Relative to supporting, what's the right thing we should be picking up
Yeah, no,
now that
that's
we've
good.
got
That's a
we've
good
got 3
point.
years of 3 different levels of efforts that has been applied to this stuff. And also in addition to, we've cleaned an area up really good and to only come back and see it totally trashed out again. That's another issue as ours. And that's really a responsibility because we're dealing with private entities here in Branford Manor and Groton Estates. They have their own managers, that are responsible for dumpsters and all this kind of stuff. And so it goes back to, well, are the dumpsters being properly utilized, and are the doors being closed on the lids being closed, so stuff's not blowing out of them and that type of stuff? Because that's really what's happening at Branford Manor. It blows out of the dumpster and goes right over the fence and right straight down the floodway into the water.
Think that would be easier to manage because you got
Well,
commercial enterprise to go at.
But here again, once it's all, as far as from the Branford Manor, I've personally talked to the lady that runs the Branford Manor thing, and, her interest level stops at the fence line, okay?
So just dumping things over the fence doesn't absolve the responsibility.
It's her property all the way to the creek, okay? So she's, so it's still a mess even on her property. Okay, so here again, and it's a city issue, not a town issue.
Right. And that's where it gets
It's
challenged.
site management,
No,
Yeah.
it's that's the issue.
Yeah, and so how much I want to get involved in this is also, weighing here. Sparkle Lake, different story,
Right.
and the stuff at Sparkle Lake is pretty, we're kind of on top. That's kind of why I put so much focus on the Thomas Road, because that was the worst part, as it turns out, as far as getting into the water, okay? So.
All right, so the next event is August, September.
Potentially, and that's being worked by the Mystic Aquarium, Save the Sound people. That's the next scheduled one. I haven't been tracking that in the past, and I got enough other stuff going here. So,
Tom's got too many circuses and lots of monkeys.
Okay. Thank you.
but in addition to that, as far as from stewardship plan, we did take a look also at the Joel property there. And again, as part of the cleanup with, we went with the Mystic River folks, is I did do a day's worth of cleanup there by myself on the Joel property on the 2 sites that were missed. Well, they were partially cleaned up, but there's still stuff there from the encampments. These are the farthest down from Pequannock Road, the encampments were. Okay, there's nothing been developed since then. They were all evicted back in July of 2022. And the sign's still posted there, don't come here and all this kind of stuff. And it's been very effective, that signage has, but there's still a lot of some residual stuff that was missed. I think you can see it in the winter. I wouldn't go back there today because you won't see it. It's when there's no leaves out and stuff. So it has to be another winter project. This is a balance as far as when to do these cleanup, when it's too cold or when it's frozen, the stuff's frozen in the ground too. And so before there's any leaves. So there's more room to do that up there.
All right, next topic was do's and don'ts. Not sure how this got in there, do's and don'ts on waste on
I think you forwarded it to me. I think it was part of the conversation with Casey Adams, because that's actually from his stuff. So you had sent it to me and said, so I just put it in there.
Okay.
That made the most sense in there to put it under outreach in terms of,
Yes, I wasn't necessarily intending on.
Yeah, I just had a comment on that, just as far as home composting, you do not put in meat meat, bones, seafood and shellfish if you're doing home composting. That's only for industrial. So
Industrial.
he's doing industrial.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
industrial,
So I
yeah.
looked at that, I'm like, what?
I guess I should be more specific on it.
I didn't know what this was, yeah.
Well, I was down in Mumford Cove this morning. And I noticed that there's actually these small green, like about
That's what they are.
3-gallon composting things sitting on the, on the edge of the street for somebody coming along to pick it up, just like
That's them.
the big ones.
That's exactly the company. So, and they're, the commercial composter is coming. It's imminent, it's coming soon. But right now,
But is
all-
that going to be a fire district led issue that just like I have to go, each fire district's responsible for their own cleanup efforts? Is that how this is going to be pushed down?
I don't know. That's something, that's a Dave Aldridge question about how, what's being run right now is, similarly modeled what they did in Stonington, but they're bringing their compost, the stuff that's get picked up by Casey is getting brought to Earth Care Farm in Charlestown. So
Two
that,
different places,
Yep.
but yeah, and
'Cause there's no
it's a
facility.
different pickup. Black Earth Compost, I think, is the SCARA.
oh, okay, yeah.
that they're working with to be.
Yeah, there's more commercial.
More
one.
commercial, a
Yeah.
little bit bigger enterprise, and so.
Yeah.
I think I thought what he said is they're working more for commercial establishments, schools, those kind of
I
things.
think so, yeah.
not
That's what it sounds
necessarily
like.
Home.
Yep.
So, but
So there's
that's,
still a market for that. and
well,
that's-
yeah, no, but that's where you start,
Mhm.
so at least until things get going.
Mhm.
But does.
But yes, you're exactly, that's exactly what I heard too, is that they're looking more for commercial
Right.
enterprises like schools and especially schools, because there's a, that's a
Let's
little
say,
easier.
yes, as we heard in
Yes.
one of our prior meetings,
Exactly.
they generate a lot of waste.
Yep.
Forget the stats, but there was
It's
a lot
significant.
of waste.
Yep.
Okay, let's see, the do's and don'ts. And Tree Advisory Board, well. Giselle's not here, but we did already discuss Arbor Day. The Service Forestry Program is in there.
The real question is, should we be putting a letter together or be proactive to suggest this project? If you get a letter from the town, is that to the identified landholders that would be applicable to it? That's the real question, I think, that
Well, I.
for our discussion.
I was gonna leave that for Giselle.
Right, yeah, she's not
She's
here.
Not here, so I think we need to table that. And perhaps, let me put a note to Giselle. I think we talked about that last time.
Well, that's what she was supposed to come back here with a recommendation this month.
Well, no, she had told us before that she wouldn't be here because she's
No,
away
yeah,
on a
she's
cruise,
actually on a
so-
cruise somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll, that's, like I said, we'll defer to June and get her recommendation at that time. Okay, and any new business that someone wants to,
Why are the dams in here? We're gonna talk about that?
which
Or
is
just
what?
The dam.
The
removal.
dam.
Oh, the
there's a
dam thing.
whole,
Oh,
like,
yeah, why
pages
was
and
that
pages
in
and
there?
pages of
That was 'cause of
paper
Tom.
Oh,
information.
that Tom thing, okay.
That was a Tom.
We discussed that a couple meetings ago.
I
We
brought it.
discussed it, but I was wondering if it was in here for more discussion or.
I
what.
have not had any luck getting more details as far as on who are the dam owners here. I did some additional research on it and I haven't been able to get the the details of the master list. All I have is a number count. And I do have the identification of I was able to track down the dams that are required to be inspected this year, and they're all with Groton Utilities. Okay, so they're outside of our scope. There's I got to do some more research here, but I wanted to include this that I haven't forgotten this issue as far as what we're looking for and as far as the of what's been done in the past, and that I think some of the areas would be along the Mystic River there to potentially, as far as that there's that, as Bray mentioned at the last meeting, up at the Woodford Brook area and that type of stuff would be the area to focus in on as far as potential dams for recommendation and stuff. But more to follow here. I think this is the low level thing. I
Yeah.
think now
Yeah,
I've found some
I do
information here.
remember we didn't have any dams in town property, so it's not hard to be a priority when
Yeah.
you don't have it. Which brings us to the most popular part of our agenda.
Well, I've already talked about the Horsley Witten thing. That was really the biggest thing to talk about. So like I said, it's a totally different project. So, but that'll be the first half hour, and then we'll have to figure out how to squeeze. You said you wanted to come back to the meeting anyways to talk about the June 2nd meeting, how we want to manage it. Because if they're gonna present for half an hour on community engagement, and then we're gonna have a bigger discussion about Con College.
And then we have the forestry stuff.
Yep. And we could also kick the forestry stuff to July too. That's another option if we're thinking that it's gonna start becoming
Well, we were gonna invite.
Jeff, yep.
Yeah,
And I
Jeff.
talked to her about that. So she knew not to invite him for next month because of Horsley Witten. And the truth is, at this point, you might want to wait till the fall because he's flat out in the summertime. So I think it's going to be a challenge to get him to come here in July and August. We're only talking another couple months. Yeah. So wait till, I would say, that would be my suggestion. You can always ask, Giselle can ask, but just knowing that I know he's working on a bunch of big projects that he just may not have the bandwidth for.
So he's off for June.
Yep.
And at the June meeting, we'll talk
about that.
Giselle make a recommendation about the forestry, because I kind of would want him there when we have that discussion.
I get it.
But let's see what she says about it, and then we can wrap him in.
And you're gonna email her about the forestry thing, the plan?
I will remind her, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
that Does that for June.
And some sort of recommendation. And I think your point is very valid about having Jeff there. So, again, it's all based upon the priority of the commission and what you think is the lowest hanging fruit that you want to accomplish. If the forestry pieces can get kicked down a couple months,
I
that
think that Con College is.
it can't, right?
priority.
No, I agree. That's really what we have to do and kind of wrap that whole thing up. So like, it's just, maybe let's have a conversation with her about it.
All right.
That's what I would say.
But then the other question was, I had brought up the issue of the potential future pesticide and
Oh, right,
fertilizer.
right.
Yes.
Oh, do we want to be adding that to future agenda items? Now, the last time your predecessor here took the lead on this in regard to drafting the wording for the ordinance is how, if I remember
mean,
right.
the plastics ordinance.
plastic
he
ordinance, right.
Researched what was done elsewhere.
Right, and then kind of put a drafting, and then we gave him more inputs and.
That might be pushed off for a bit because right now I'm working on some big flood stuff. So we have,
Yeah, well, that's what I say. I know this is kind of a big thing, this is gonna take some time, but it's.
Well, maybe the first question is, are there any other towns in Connecticut that have
That's
passed
right.
an ordinance?
Yeah,
And what type of ordinance are we looking to get passed?
It's pesticides and fertilizer.
so how about
I mean,
this?
that's specifically what regarding them, or that the
The
town
restriction.
Okay.
restriction
or
of the town
restriction.
usage.
we can, that's the whole thing. We could take a look at that we have to discuss.
Yeah, you took a
Do we
look,
want to
yeah.
prohibit
I mean,
purchase or sale? That's probably the easiest thing that you can do. but-
I love the idea
I
of,
have connected.
yeah,
You can't enforce.
I love the idea, of-
Enforcement's gonna
but
be
first of
really
all,
tough.
we can't not allow it at all because
Well,
there's a lot of stuff
yeah.
that's needed and there's no organic like replacement, so.
The whole question is, what has other people done?
Exactly, we
Yeah,
need to
that's
find
the
out what
first
else,
question.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
And the other piece too about the organic piece is, yes, is organic better? Absolutely. But if you're putting twice as much organic on there, it's no better than
Right, exactly.
synthetic, like, so you
Right,
really.
amount of nitrogen's amount of nitrogen.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
part of, and again, maybe this is a topic for the end of the summer to put it under new business, to have a discussion to figure
Yes.
out where the commission wants to go on this. But like, so in Charlestown, where I live and where I did a lot of work over there, we worked with the wastewater coordinator on this whole topic, specifically on fertilizers and whatnot, and the town established a certification program specifically for commercial operations. So, I'm sure it's very similar here, that starting around March, April, May, you start getting multiple flyers in the mail from True Green and all these other places saying they're going to give you the best lawn you could ever imagine for a small, low fee. And, oh, guess what? We're organic. Oh, so it's all better. And that's kind of the excuse they use right now. So Charlestown did a whole certification program on there, and then they were actually able to, when someone would come in asking for a reputable landscape company, they could put like a little star next to their name, or they had a little certification piece of that. The enforcement piece is next to impossible. The piece about controlling, Benny's isn't around anymore, but Benny's is infamous for advertising in the springtime for their 4-part Scott system there, that you don't even have to think about it. In the early spring, you put this bag. In the early summer, you put this. The middle of summer, you put the third bag, and finally before the winter, you put the 4th bag. So any homeowner sees that like, oh, this is easy. I don't have to think about it. But half the time, you're either treating when you don't need to treat, or you're killing what you don't need to kill. And that's the mentality of it. So it's really tough to be able to say, it's one thing to say for commercial operations, what they can or cannot do and have a little bit more enforcement potential. It is next to impossible to do it for a homeowner.
But we could be banning the sale of it in our town.
We could, yeah, but
That's a,
but that
Amazon
we absolutely we could, and that's not a zoning thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's outside of that, but it's
Well,
they're gonna go across the.
Yeah, you'd be just
the
going
river.
pretty much against
not like
small guys,
from-
the Walmart, Johnson's type of things.
Somewhere shortly, we should be getting their reports on measuring what's in the.
Yes, I don't think that's shortly. That was what Tom had reported back last month about doing the whole nutrient model and doing
Right.
work. That's a multi-year.
Yeah, no,
You know.
really, but I thought the sensors were starting to go in.
But so I worked on several EPA projects that look specifically at this kind of stuff, that gathered nutrient data. And usually it's at least 3 to 4 years out, because they're not willing to release the data until it's looked over 12 times by 85 different people to make sure everything was done correctly. So even though that's going to be a really great study when it comes out, it's at least a couple years out, so it takes time, unfortunately.
It's not really data until you have some kind of trail. Just
Exactly.
A point reading, it's
Exactly.
just a point reading.
They
It's
take-
nothing. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it steady? I mean.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
need some
yeah.
time, but.
So it will be really good. And, Jamie Vaudrey's has been doing a lot of work on that between like looking at, nitrogen levels from fertilizers, from septics, from sewage treatment plants, all that kind of stuff. And I think, I'm excited when it'll be out here, but I'm also realistic about how long that's actually going to take, just because I was involved with that for a long time.
You're really. Debbie
No,
Downer,
I'm
so-
telling you, like, just telling you the reality of this, like I wanted it yesterday. And it's like, no, we haven't even got, and I went out there and I would be like, no, we're going out. Oh, well, the weather's not bad. I'm like, I don't really care. I'm the one driving the boat. You're going out and testing, so I was providing the transportation for them and obviously helping too with it. But it just, I know you're all frustrated how town government works. Federal is even worse. Federal and
Yeah.
state is unfortunately even worse how long it takes. And especially for stuff like this, really great stuff, but it's going to take a while. And part of that too is not just the fact of getting the data back, but it's a whole education campaign around it too, as well, to get people to really understand, how, so for so long, it's really easy to point and say, oh, well, it's the sewage treatment plant, or it's the, it's a road runoff, or it's the whatever. And unfortunately, most of the time, you point with one finger, but you have three, at least 3 pointing back at you. And that's the big issue, is a lot of the impact is all of us, and it really isn't our neighbors. And so we could be the most perfect, but I'm sorry, no one is perfect. You can do the best job you can, but there's, it's challenging. And really the biggest thing about any of these topics is getting the public to understand that they play as much of a role as the town, as the state, as whoever does, So I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just trying to be more realistic about what we can accomplish in the short term. So I'm happy to put it on an agenda at July, August, when we have a little bit more time to talk about it in greater detail. and stuff, and you all can, you know,
Well, let's leave it as it is. The first step is research and since has anybody done anything that could serve as a model or got?
Yeah, and I'll take the lead on getting that.
A helping job.
that's great.
Okay, so the two of us will work on that.
Well, I don't think we want to hear anymore.
Whatever.
I think Dave's doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And on that note,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
okay, without objection, so moved.
All right. Very much.
We stuck through the whole